Ko em toko ingoa. My name is Em, and I'm the project coordinator for Grow Wānaka. We are a community garden, compost center, and education hub. And I love this photo because we're in a really special spot. We're about 200 meters from where Lake Wānaka flows into the Mata'ao, the Clutha River, and we're close enough to town to be super accessible to the community, but we're far enough away, and you can see we're kind of tucked away in the Wānaka native bush, and we've got poplar and pine shelter belts around us. So yeah, so we're kind of a little bit further out, and we've got room to kind of expand and evolve as we have been. And yeah, we got a cool little microclimate and a really special relationship with the landowners. So yeah, we're just super lucky. Okay, next one. So we are working on local solutions to sort of global issues, global challenges. And the four key areas we're working on is food resilience and food security, community connection and well-being, waste minimization through composting, and education. And all the while, we're also regenerating a pretty degraded bit of land. So we're really working on building soil health, bringing back biodiversity, and just showcasing really what's possible for regenerating landscape and bringing back the productivity. Next one. So we started July 2020, and so we've been going for just over 5 years now. We just had our 5th birthday. And so when we started, it probably took about 6 months to just get the fence in. So you can see winter 2021, we're really just forming the garden beds, and the ground is so degraded that it's like concrete, and we couldn't actually even cultivate it. So we had to have topsoil brought in to start building the beds. And you can see in the winter 2021 photo, you can see these big mounds of Wānaka slash that are just outside of the garden fence. And I'll talk about that later. But yeah, so otherwise it's actually been quite a fast evolution of the space. In the last sort of 2, 3 years, we put in a ton of infrastructure to just help with productivity, and yeah, it's just been tremendous. So next slide. So this is this past summer, February 2025. And to kind of give you a little bit of a lay of the land, I'll kind of start at the top where the cars are parked, because this is our sort of south poplar shelter belt, and just on the other side of that is a 14-meter berry patch. And then you can see our white worm farms all lined up against the top of the fence. And then we've got a tool shed and a workshop space, and then kind of just off to the left out of sight is our meeting space that's got a shade sail over it. And then our little greenhouse Phyllis, which we do our chilies and melons in. And then we've got a propagation house. And then if we work our way down to the bottom of the garden, we've got all of our compost bays lined up along the north boundary. And then that long green rectangle is our hugelkultur, pumpkin patch, and now orchard. And then further on from that, we've got another native planting that's also got some fruit trees in it. And then if we go inside the garden, we've got archways throughout the middle of the garden, which are now growing grapes. And then we've got perennial beds all around the outer, which is all sorts of beautiful medicinal things we can make tea with. It's also, food and habitat for all of the beneficials. And so, I'm always just adding new and cool things into the perennial beds. And then we do the more high rotation the crops in the middle. And we've added this, you can kind of see the infrastructure we've added for trellising, so that we can go have better productivity growing lots of stuff vertically. So yeah, and also just to say we're on private land where the garden is, but where that black shelter fence is on the right-hand side, next to that's council land. So we're pretty lucky to sort of have that as a hmm, maybe expansion in the future. Cool. So we call ourselves a circular model community garden. So that kind of starts with our organics drop-off hub. So we have two composting options for community. We have our worm farms, so we deal with households only, not businesses, but households can drop off specific food scraps for the worm farms. And that's our little poster in the left. The top is what we accept, and the bottom is what we can't accept for the food for the worm farms. So yeah, people just come down and drop off their food scraps in our white buckets inside the bins. And then we manage our worm farms on the right about once a week, sometimes twice a week in summer. And yeah, and then we also do bokashi. So if people want to divert more than we can accept for the worm farms, then council subsidizes bokashi bins. So they can purchase them from council or Wastebusters. And then if they don't have a place to bury them in their own property, they can drop them to us and then swap them for an empty, and then we'll bury it somewhere in the garden. So yeah, so kind of each year we divert about 2 ton of food waste from landfill. And it doesn't seem like that significant in the scheme of things, except that we don't collect. So we don't spend any petrol or time or energy collecting food. It's just what community is actually dropping to us, which is pretty cool. And then we divert to like another at least 7 ton of other organic materials to build compost and soil health. So that's everything from wood chips to manure to dags to leaves and straw. Yeah, whatever I can get my hands on, really. And then yeah, and then that beautiful vermicast that comes off of the bins. Next slide. So we use the majority of it to create our own seed raising mix so that we're producing like the healthiest, most robust and disease resistant seedlings as we can, and those go into the garden. Yeah, for our organic produce. And this photo's a couple years old, but yeah, you can kind of see. And yep, next one. So we grow as a collective and we run a Saturday morning B&T where we provide morning tea. So we run that year round. And then we also, from daylight savings to daylight savings through the busier summer months, we run a Wednesday evening bee and brew and finish with a refreshing beverage from our local microbrew. So yeah, so that's and next one. And then at the end of every single working bee, we do a collective harvest and we all share in the harvest. So volunteers get first pick of anything that comes out of the garden. And then next slide. And then any surplus plus any like extra that we can harvest from the garden goes to our local food bank or produce pantries. So this kind of completes our circle with the food going back to the community. So we donate usually around 40 parcels of organic produce to the food bank every season. And then I must have donated at least another 180 pumpkins this year. Yeah, I was taking about at least a half a dozen per week for quite a few weeks. Um, and so we're also, yeah, supporting like 15 to 40 team members for our working bees every week as well with this beautiful Kai. Yeah. So community connection and well-being. I really underestimated this sort of aspect of the garden. And 2 summers ago, I interviewed just kind of randomly at one morning tea and just asked people what the garden meant to them. And we get a really diverse crew down at the garden. We get seasonal employees, we get people that have just moved to town and want to know how to grow in the local climate. So it's a real mix. And yeah, everyone comes for, education or free food, but community connection was like this thread that everyone's kind of noted something about it. And I was like, okay, like morning tea is actually like the most important part of the whole session. And we always finish with morning tea or refreshing beverage so that the tools go away and then we just have that time to just like sit and relax and people can stay for as long as they want to just chat and have that interaction. So this season we're focused most on doing like more shared kite events and just allowing people to kind of connect over beautiful food. So yeah. Educational workshops, we just depending on our capacity, we try for like 6 to 10 per season. And we always try for like the normal composting and veggie growing. And then I always try for some diverse workshops like edible weeds and foraging or tea making or winter remedies. And always, looking for new collaborations and partnerships and just, trying different things each season. So yeah, we'll see what we get up to this season. We are also part of 5 wider partnerships. We're part of the Aotearoa Composting Network, which we're actually like, really thrilled to just be able to share ideas and whatever is happening. So that's, it's been really awesome. We're part of 2 food resilience, food security networks. So we're part of the Upper Clutha Food Security Network, which is like hyper local. And then we're also part of the Southern Lakes Kai Collective, which is Queenstown Lakes, which is more food resilience based. Uh, and then we're part of the Nature Education Collaborative. It's about 6 organizations, and we do place-based environmental education. So we teach teachers and we teach tamariki, and we like take them out to wetlands or the gardens, and we do the sessions there so they can really be hands-on. And then we're also part of the Our Place Collaborative, which is 9, I think it's 9 of us, regenerative organizations in town that kind of span from super urban to wastebusters to like super rural Southern Lake Sanctuary. And we kind of fit all these little niches in between. So yeah, so it's been great. So it just kind of gives us a bigger voice and allows us to kind of make change faster. So yeah. Composting. So yeah, we probably uh participate in at least 7 different methods of composting at the garden, and part of that is creating beautiful compost for the garden. And the other part is the education piece. So we really want to showcase all of the different possibilities for if you live in an apartment or whether you have a lifestyle block or a farm, like there's a composting method to fit your context. So we so we just try for as many different types as we can. Hot composting, we probably make like 2 or 3 piles per season. So we don't actually make that much because it's just so labor intensive. But it's usually, autumn through winter when we've just got that surplus of materials on hand and just try for like super diverse piles. So yeah, next one. Bokashi, we do a ton of bokashi because we get it dropped off. We're definitely burying bokashi at most every week. Sometimes we bury it in the garden beds, but for the most part, it's going to our hugelkultur pumpkin patch. which will be coming up. And then we water the bokashi juice on like everything. So yeah, I love, love, love bokashi, and it's just transformed our soil beautifully. Like just in 3 years, you could see the life coming back, which was pretty tremendous from not being able to cultivate it at all. Next one. Hugelkultur raised beds. So we have two 6 meter raised beds. We've done both of them in the hugelkultur style. So we've laid pine logs on the bottom and then branches and then wood chip and then whatever else we had on hand. So bokashi, manure, straw. And then we just laid a thin layer of compost on the top. And we do all of our quick greens in these beds. So we probably turn them over about 4 times a season. And we just, yeah, it's just super productive. We get the most beautiful greens out of it, out of these beds. So yeah, we're really happy with that system, and it probably saved us like a ton of money to in compost to actually fill them initially. So we do in situ lasagna composting. So this is our like easy method rather than hot composting. We usually do this in autumn and winter and just utilizing whatever we have on hand, like green waste, bokashi, manure, leaves, straw, and we just layer the carbon nitrogen layers, water it with bokashi juice, and then just tarp it with shade cloth or tarp and leave it for the rest of the winter to break down. So yeah, it's kind of like the mm, kind of cheap and easy way to build soil health. Johnson Sioux bioreactors, these are the two we built this year, and we've got one that's ready from last year. So this like fungal dominated composting system. So it's we just used leaves and wood chip because that's what we had in abundance on hand. And at the moment, we're working with the Te Kakano Native Nursery. We just built one of these at the nursery so that they could start experimenting with making their own sort of more fungal dominated and natural potting mix, and possibly actually we'll make extracts and feed all the plants with them, but just in trying to create a different medium than the potting mix that they have been using with synthetic kind of fertilizer in it, to see if we can grow more robust seedlings and also like take duff from the native forest and possibly inoculate that with it. So we're just doing some like pretty cool experiments in that space, and I can keep everyone posted on where we get to with those. And this is our Kanuka Hugelkultur pumpkin patch orchard. So those big piles of Kanuka slash that I pointed out in the first picture, the landowner came and dug this big trench, and we chucked all of the Kanuka slash in it, and then he just topped it up. And like 3 years on, and it's just the most beautiful spongy soil, and it just holds moisture beautifully. And so we just keep topping it up so that it doesn't collapse. So we just chuck everything at it, wood chip, green waste, manure, leaves, and then we bury a ton of bokashi in there and plant all of our pumpkins. So this has been a pumpkin patch for the last 3 years. And this past year we got 337 pumpkins out of it. And then last winter we planted 8 heritage fruit trees in there. So now we're stacking functions, and it works really well because we have really hot, dry summers. So the pumpkins just shade the soil and they keep everything moist. So it's been a good, yeah, like we're really happy with how it's working so far. So we'll kind of keep going with it and see. And then the perennial beds. So just a few pictures of what they look like in product when they're like, yeah, fully in bloom. yeah, all sorts of really cool things, and just, yeah, bringing in the pollinators and the beneficials for us. We really haven't had any major pest issues. I think kind of birds are really like the main culprit. So yeah, so I feel like this is doing its job really well. And also, like, when you're in the garden and you're just surrounded by these perennial beds, it's like it just brings you such joy, and it's like this big perennial hug. You just feel like it's such a nice space to be in. So yeah, I feel really thankful for these perennial beds. And yeah, and that's us really.